But she was a misfit blonde. Oh well. It's really not an issue at all. Most that happened here is that I was confused. Let me just get this started. Cool. I was a cheerleader in high school, but I also part of the anime club, D&D club, chess club, math league, and the computer club. Well, I was part of no clubs. I wasn't cool enough to be part of clubs. hmm. It's whatever. I mean, we assume female, yes, but there are Meryl. Meryl. There are male cheerleaders. So, no judgments. He or she, I hope, um, has a nice life. I don't suspect I'll see them again. If they come back, great. And I hope they're decent people. I have no idea. I'm willing to give them a shot. I don't care that they implied that, or they didn't apply. They just straight up said I was a nerd. I don't care that they called me a nerd. And the servant thing is kind of weird, though. Didn't like that, but you know, whatever. How about we move on to chapter 4, which will probably also be the final chapter for tonight. That'll be around 50 pages, and I try to do about 50 pages. I received a computer science award all 4 years, and an athletic award too. Just a nerdy jock, I guess. Well, maybe. Sounds about right. Way to be a nerd. But Tara, I want to eat them. Well, go ahead and eat them then. I don't care. I'm not stopping your cannibalistic ways, Ka. Anyway, I'm going to read this chapter 4. So please forgive my... I do like your emotes, by the way, Ka. Just thought I'd let you know. I'm going to read this chapter 4. Hey, T. How's it going? Thanks for being here. Got me reading Prince Caspian. Partying like it's 1949. Thank you for shouting out T. He was doing some Nancy Drew speed runs the last time I was able to hang out on his stream. And I don't know how many read streams you've been. Finally made a Terra. It's a pleasure to have you here for a Terra stream. I hope you enjoy yourself. Right now I'm reading Prince Caspian. I've read the first 3 books on stream. This is the first time on my stream that I've shown my face. My first actual reveal on stream, face-wise, was... Also, it sounds like it's going to be cozy. I'm trying to give that kind of feel. I think a couple people have fallen asleep already. Which is awesome. I don't... that's a very nice compliment to me, honestly. But yeah, I've read the first 3 books. I plan on reading all 7 of the books eventually. Terry, you need some coffee? I don't really drink coffee. It's not my style. I have water, and Twix is sleeping on the couch. There's a Twix snore. It might have shown up on stream. I don't know. But yeah, T, thanks for being here. Please forgive me if I don't respond right away. Because I will be... yeah, I'm sure too about that page. I mean, that's just kind of a habit of hers, with me anyway. And I don't mind it at all. It's, like I said, it's very complimentary to me. And yes, if you do fall asleep, have a great sleep, man. Thanks again for hanging out and being here. And again, don't mind me if I don't reply right away. I'm going to just be focusing on reading through the chapter, and then I'll respond to people, talk for a little bit. And I hope that you all enjoy chapter 4 when I get to it. Yeah, she was koalaing. at the end of Goji's stream, so I don't really blame her. And thank you, yes, T. Thanks again for being here. Thanks, and I'll say this again at the end of the stream, but thanks everybody for hanging out and being here. You all make this streaming thing wholly worthwhile, and I really appreciate you all, even if I can't say it correctly. Y'all are amazing. Thank you. And yes, Twix is adorable. I don't know if she would take coffee. I think she's sick right now. Not that she drinks coffee regularly, but I think she has an upset stomach. Upset stomach. Welcome back, Omar. We're about to start chapter 4 in book 4 on the not the 4th. Right. Anyway, let's do this thing with this nice music playing in the background. Chapter 4. I'm gonna drink some water first. Bleh. Blah, 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 blah. I've talked enough as is. It's okay, Kaw. I appreciate the effort. Anyway, please forgive me for not responding for a little while. I'm gonna focus on the chapter. Finally. Chapter 4. The dwarf tells of Prince Caspian. Chapter the 4th, I'm sorry. Chapter the 4th. The dwarf tells of Prince Caspian. Prince Caspian lived in a great cancel. Prince Caspian lived in a great castle in the center of Narnia with his uncle, Muriz, the king of Narnia, and his aunt, who had red hair and was called Queen, of course, Pruna Prismia. His father and his mother were dead, and the person whom Caspian loved best was his nurse, and though, being a prince, he had wonderful toys which would do almost anything but talk. He liked best the last hour of the day, when the toys had all been put back in the cupboards, and the nurse would tell him stories. That's like what I'm doing. I'm a nurse, you guys. He did not care much for his uncle and aunt, but about twice a week his uncle would send for him, and they would walk up and down together for a half an hour on the terrace at the south side of the castle. One day, while they were doing this, the king said to him, "Well, boy, we must soon teach you to ride and use a sword. You know that your aunt and I have no children, so it looks as if you might have to be king when I'm gone. How shall you like that, eh?" I don't know, uncle, said Caspian. Don't know, eh? Said Muriz. Why, I should like to know what more anyone could wish for. All the same, I do wish, said Caspian. What do you wish? Asked the king. I wish I could have lived in the old days, said Caspian. He was only a very little boy at the time. Up until now, King Muriz had been talking in the tiresome way that some grown-ups have, which makes it quite clear that they are not really interested in what you are saying, but now he suddenly gave Caspian a very sharp look. Eh? What's that? He said. What old days do you mean? Oh, don't you know, uncle? Said Caspian. When everything was quite different, when all the animals could talk, and there were nice people who lived in the streams and the trees. Naiads and dryads, they were called, and there were dwarfs, and there were lovely little fawns in the woods. They all feet like goats, and that's all nonsense, for babbies, said the king sternly. Only fit for babbies, you hear? You're getting too old for that sort of stuff. At your age, you ought to be thinking of battles and adventures, not fairy tales. Oh, but there were battles and adventures in those days, said Caspian. Wonderful adventures. Once there was a white witch, and she made herself queen of the whole country, and she made it so that it was always winter, and then two boys and girls who came from somewhere, and so they killed the witch, and they made kings and queens of Narnia, and their names were Peter and Susan and Edmund and Lucy, and so they reigned for ever so long, and everyone had a lovely time, and it all because of Aslan. Who's he? Said Muriz, as if Caspian had been a very little older. The tone of his uncle's voice would have warned him that it would be wiser to shut up, but he babbled on. Oh, don't you know? He said. Aslan is the greatest lion who comes from over the sea. Who's been telling you this nonsense? Said the king in a voice of thunder. Caspian was frightened and said nothing. Your Royal Highness, said King Muriz, letting go of Caspian's hand, which he had been holding till now, I insist upon being answered. Look me in the face. Who has been telling you this pack of lies? nurse?" faltered Caspian, and burst into tears. "Stop that noise," said his uncle, taking Caspian by the shoulders and giving him a shake. "Stop it! And never let me catch you talking, or thinking either, about all those silly stories again. There never were those kings and queens. How could there be two kings at the same time? And there's no such person as Aslan, and there are no such things as lions, and there never was a time when animals could talk, do you hear?" Yes, uncle," sobbed Caspian. "Then let's have no more of it," said the king. Then he called to one of the gentlemen-in-waiting, who were standing in the far end of the terrace, and said in a cold voice, "Conduct his royal highness to the apartments, and send his royal highness's nurse to me at once." Next day, Caspian found what a terrible thing he had done, for the nurse had been sent away without even being allowed to say goodbye to him, and he was told he was to have a tutor. Caspian missed his nurse very much, and shed many tears, and because he was so miserable, he thought about the old stories in Narnia far more than before. Thanks, Twix. He dreamed of dwarves and dryads every night, and tried very hard to make the dogs and cats in Castle talk to him, but the dogs only wagged their tails, and the cats only purred. Caspian felt sure that he would hate the new tutor, but when the new tutor arrived about a week later, he turned out to be the sort of person it was almost impossible not to like. It's like me. He was the smallest and also... Okay, this isn't like me anymore. He was the smallest and also the fattest man Caspian had ever seen. He had a long silvery pointed beard which came down to his waist, and his face, which was brown and covered with wrinkles, looked very wise, very ugly, and very kind. His voice... This just got worse. I wish I never compared myself to him. His voice was grave and his eyes were merry, so that, until you get to know him really well, it was hard to know when he was joking and when he was serious. His name was Dr. Cornelius. Of all the lessons with Dr. Cornelius, the one that Caspian liked was history. Up till now, except for nurses' stories, he had known nothing about the history of Narnia, and he was very surprised to learn that the royal family were newcomers in the country. It was your Highness's ancestor, Caspian the First," said Dr. Cornelius, "who had first conquered Narnia and made it to his kingdom. It was he who brought all your nation into the country. You are not native Narnians at all. You are all Telmarines. That is, you all came from the land of Telmar, far beyond the western mountains. That is why Caspian the First is called Caspian the Conqueror." "Please, doctor," asked Caspian one day, "who lived in Narnia before? We all came here out of Telmar?" "No men, or very few, lived in Narnia before the Telmarines took it," said Dr. Cornelius. "Then who did my great-grandsesters conquer?" "Whom, not who, your highness," said Dr. Cornelius. Perhaps it was time for history to grammar, to turn from history to grammar. "Oh, please, not yet," said Caspian. "I mean, wasn't there a battle? Why is it called Caspian the Conqueror if there was nobody to fight with him?" I said there were very few men in Narnia," said the doctor, looking at the very little boy very strangely through his great spectacles. For a moment Caspian was puzzled, and then suddenly his heart gave a leap. "Do you mean that there were other things? Do you mean it was like in the stories? Were there—" "Hush!" said Dr. Cornelius, laying his head very close to Caspian's. "Not a word more. Don't you know your nurse was sent away for Not a word more. Don't you know your nurse was sent away for telling you about old Narnia? The king does not like it. If he found me telling you secrets, you'd be whipped, and I should have my head cut off." "But why?" asked Caspian. "It's high time we turned to grammar now," said Dr. Cornelius in a loud voice. "Will your royal highness be pleased to open Pulver Rulentus Siccus at the 4th page of his Grammatical Garden of the Arbor of Accidents, Pleasantile opened to tender wits?" After that, it was all nouns and verbs till lunchtime. But I don't think Caspian learned much. He was too excited. He felt sure that Dr. Cornelius would not have said so much unless he meant to tell him more sooner or later. In this he was not disappointed. A few days later, his tutor said, "Tonight I will be going to give you a lesson in astronomy. At the dead of night, 2 noble planets, Tarva and Alambel, will pass within 1 degree of each other. Such a conjunction has not occurred for 200 years, and your highness will not live to see it again. It will be best if you go to bed a little earlier than usual. When the time of the conjunction draws near, I will come and wake you." This didn't seem to have anything to do with old Narnia, which was what Caspian really wanted to hear about, but getting up in the middle of